Welcome to Three Corners of Horrors. As you can see, Ricky Grimes is not with us tonight, but we wish him the best and speedy recovery. I will try my best to fill in his shoes. Before I continue, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications. We are joined this week by a very special guest, writer, actress, and director, Sara Lynn Maher. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Jose?
I'm doing very, very well. Looking forward to this episode and seeing what your thoughts are about this film.
Definitely. I'll say it was pretty fresh.
I'm going to like her.
We are joined by my brother, Joe. How's it going today?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this movie. I actually, I like Sebastian, so I was already in. But yeah, no, because you know what? This was something fresh.
Surely was. All right, let's get started. This week, we are going to go out for a bite in this 2022 film called Fresh, now streaming on Hulu. It is directed by Mimi Cave. If you are an independent filmmaker like me and Sarah are, go to mimicave.com and see all her short films. Now, Noah, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, tends to have a bad luck when it comes to dating. One day, while at a supermarket, she meets Steve, played by Sebastian Stan. Afterwards, they begin to date, and things begin to get a little serious as we find out that Steve has an appetite for the exquisite. Now, let's start. Sarah, what were your first initial thoughts of this movie?
So my first initial thoughts were, overall, I liked it. I thought that it was a really well done film. Really cool cinematography and a really cool story. I don't think it's like super original, but it was interesting to say the least. And it definitely held my attention for most of it. So overall, I enjoyed it.
Joe?
Me, I actually, for one, what I liked about this movie, there was something different. I don't know if you guys caught this, but the movie just started. It wasn't about 30 minutes in before you got the name of the movie, you got all your intros. That was fucking awesome for me because,
I love that too.
I mean, because you always jump into a movie with, the name of the movie, intro, and you go through all that stuff, but it just jumped right in. I liked the pacing of the film. The best part was how it painted online dating as a meat market. A lot of the shots that it showed, I mean, even one of the beginning shots, it was the shot of a meat market where you saw the meat on the hooks. Yeah. So it basically painted to you that the meat market right now is the same thing as it is to online dating.
No, that was pretty, I got to be honest. When I first saw this film, seeing Sebastian Stan on it, I was like, oh my God, I got to see him how he does this because the guy's been doing Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes for a couple of years already. So it's kind of interesting to see him in this role, but I gotta tell you, Daisy Edgar Jones, I love her. I thought she did a hell of a job with her character because her character she felt so real and authentic. I mean, I liked her a lot, and I thought definitely the chemistry they both had in this film was very, very good. Now, moving on, I mean, discuss what you enjoyed, the most about the film. Whatever favorite scene or favorite moment in the film. What are your thoughts, Sarah?
So the first thing, I mentioned it before, but the cinematography, the camera work, and the direction I thought was really cool. Like one of my favorite scenes was when Noah gets drugged and then like the camera starts getting blurry and Steve starts getting all fuzzy and stuff. I was just like, oh shoot, like here we go. I just thought that was really cool. And there were other really cool shots throughout the film too. Like there was a shot from underneath Noah when she was in the room and she was like pressed against the wall. And she almost looked like a monster. I thought that was like a really neat and cool shot. I also really like the acting. Like you were saying, Jose, I think that everybody was really believable. And I personally loved Noah and Molly's relationship. Like it just felt so real and fun. And it reminds me of like friendships that I have, like the dynamics with some of my friends. So that was super relatable and fun. And yeah, that was really cool. What else did I like about the movie? Nothing. No, I'm just kidding. So what you were saying, Joe, about how it's kind of like this commentary on online dating and the modern dating scene, I think that the writer, the director, and the actors did such a good job really tapping into, like, at least from a young woman's perspective, what it can be like, and just like the weird shit you might encounter, like the stupid texts, the dick pics, like all of that. It was like, obviously it's exaggerated for a movie, but it like definitely has a space in reality. And I thought that they did a good job like portraying that.
Joe?
Well, as for me, just hitting off what you said, it's the same. Like, so I watched this with my partner, and I'm thinking in my head, like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm with you right now. You know, we're like gonna hit 19 years. I'm like, I don't know what to do about dating, and I'm seeing this and what it's gonna be like. And it actually scared me of the fact of how online dating is, just on how, you know, I mean, I come from the generation where you went out and you met people. You actually
like
you socially interact with a person. So it was that initial interaction, and the social thing just takes it away, which leads to some of these people getting in these really precarious situations, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, the other part that I liked about the movie was the cat and mouse chase. So what I liked the way is that Steve was slowly manipulating No and influencing her. This was the whole thing about manipulation. And it wasn't until we got to meet the character of Anne, played by Charlotte LeBon, that we understood what he was doing. I mean, if you didn't know this yet, like I have a degree in psychology. So for this is a movie about Stockholm syndrome to the nth degree, because obviously Anne was a previous victim of his, enough to the point where he cut her leg off, sold it, ate from it, and ended up being with her and having kids with her. And what this movie was, and it's one of my little flaws I might find in it, was because I think that he was slowly manipulating Noah into taking Anne's place. So yeah, so when you saw that, like, Anne went to take the shower and she took the leg off, that's when you kind of realize the manipulation that Steve has had, because he ended up taking a victim in, cut her leg off, married her, and you know, we don't know if it was legal, but still ended up having kids with her. And we all know what she does towards the end, which just proves more of what the Stockholm syndrome was here, because she even protected him towards the end.
So let me ask you guys a question before I get into my point. Now, Joe, you mentioned earlier how 33 minutes in, we finally get the title of the movie. So when I got to that point, I was like, all right, now they're letting us know the movie is really about to begin now.
Yes.
And now after he drugs her, like, what were your initial like thoughts when he actually revealed what he's gonna do to her? Because when he actually said what he's gonna do, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't expect that at all. It took the turn to the left. So, I mean, Sarah, what did you think when it was revealed what he was gonna do to her?
My jaw dropped for like a hot second, like maybe 5 to 10 seconds. I knew, like, from the beginning, I'm just like, okay, he's gonna do some like fucked up shit. But when he told her, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sell your parts for like the wealthy 1% of people, I was just like, oh, like, I had no idea that that was the direction it was gonna go in. Like, I guess the movie's called Fresh, and you could defer or like figure out that it's gonna be about cannibalism in a sense, but I was like not anticipating that. So I thought that that was a really cool, like, skirt little turn.
What about you, Joe?
Well, for me, honestly, I don't know about you, Sarah, but I actually have been drugged on a drink. So what she experienced, I knew exactly that fear. When I watched that scene, I knew exactly what she was going through. You know, thankfully I got to make it home and nothing bad happened.
Yeah.
But the thing is, so when you're sitting there, you're just having a drink, and all of a sudden your senses get all fucked up. It was for me, like, when I'm watching it, like reliving kind of that moment, because it's exactly what it feels like when you're drugged, because one, you're not expecting it. So when it hits you, you're kind of like, what the hell is going on? Your vision does get blurry. And unfortunately, you know, like, it does involve all your senses. You end up getting knocked out. So yeah, for director wise, for, you know, unfortunately, anybody who's gone through that, it might have been a little bit PTSD, or trying to say, hey, this is what it feels like. But that was a great shot, great done because it is exactly what it feels like when someone doses your drink. I mean, like, as she's going through that, I was just like, oh my God. And that's when you also knew it's about to get fucked up.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Like my favorite two scenes in this was, I like the scene where Paul is looking for Molly and he shows up at Steve's house. And as soon as he heard the gunshot, he's like, fuck this shit. Fuck it.
We've
He gets
seen
in
this
the
in the
car.
movie.
Yeah, I see this in the
Yeah.
movie. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, they finally did something right in a horror movie where a guy doesn't go to try to be the hero. He freaking left. So I mean, I love that scene.
Real quick.
And then the other scene, which I love, jumping towards the end, was when Anne's trying to kill Noah, and then Molly comes and saves her, bashes her in the head, and then they're against this tree. She's like, who the fuck was that? Like,
That was funny.
Steve's wife. Like, what? He's married? He was married. That was the best way to almost a conclusion for a movie.
Which is another one of the horrors of online dating, is that people don't reveal that they're married.
And what
I've had that horror happen to me, and it was just like not fun. Thankfully, no cannibalism was involved, so like there's that. But like you said, that's definitely a horror of the online dating scene, is that people just make themselves out to be something that they're not, and then they're actually selling women's parts for consumption, like metaphorically. So no fun.
All right, so let's steer a different course now. We talked about things we liked about the movie. So what about, your least favorite moment of the film, or what actually didn't work for you in the film? Sarah?
I would say, for starters, the runtime felt a little bit long. Like there were just parts in the middle of the movie where I kind of felt like it was dragging just a little bit. But overall, I was like totally along for the ride for the most part. And then my other big con was like, I wanted them to explore the like community of super elite people that are eating women, because there were two shots in the movie. One of them was when Steve was like handing the boxes for delivery to like the macho guy or whatever. On that box, there was a symbol. And then in the scene where Noah tries the meat for the first time, and it intercuts between her eating and like the nasty upper elite men eating, that same symbol was on the bottom of the plate, and it was like a gold Baphomet head. And I'm just like, oh shoot, like we're going into this territory. Like that's super cool. Cause that's like, I love occult and like culty movies. So I really wanted to know more about that. And then we just didn't get it. So I felt let down about that, but I feel like that's something, if they're going to follow up with a sequel, I feel like they should explore that, because if not, then that's just like really unfortunate that they're missing such a like meaty, pun intended, like story arc. Like I thought that would have been really cool. I was going to say, and I kind of wish they pushed things a bit further with the movie. Like it had moments that made you go like, ew, I want to eat salad for the rest of the week, and like cringy stuff. But I almost feel like with a subject like cannibalism, I just want to see more like extreme, nasty stuff. And I don't know if that makes me like weird and gross, but I'm just like, oh, I wish this was amped up like just a little bit more.
Joe?
Well, so first, Rick's going to enjoy this because the spirit of Rick was just here. Because my notes, she literally said what I put in my notes. So I'm just going to jump into what you said in your notes. I enjoyed this film from beginning to end, which is kind of a little rare for me lately. If I'm going to nitpick, jumping out what she said was one of those things, is that when the plate and you saw the emblem, you knew that there was this group of the elite, as you said, that were involved with eating the meat of humans. So it would have been kind of cool to see a little bit more story on that. I actually would have also liked to see a little backstory on how he got Anne to end up basically flipping, having his kids. And because in the end, if you saw, she even looked at the bigger picture. Once she realized what happened to him, it really was about, we've got this, we got money to make.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to seen a little more on Anne's story. But yeah, you took, I'm not even going to repeat it. You took all the words out of my mouth on the emblem. When I saw those emblems, I'm like, so there's this community. It would be cool to see who you saw glimpses of all the people eating the meat. And when you saw them preparing the meat, I'm actually I'm a jack of all trades. I worked at a meat market. So a couple of scenes where they were showing the meat in the grinder, I'm like, well, that's really chicken, But however, because most of the film involved him cooking the meat, it would have been cool for him to do a tartare scene, because I think it was done in one of the from the Hannibal. Help me out here, guys.
Red Dragon.
I could have sworn there was one scene where they served raw meat in one of those.
I think that was in Red Dragon.
Was it Red Dragon? That's what I'm saying. So it would have been good to see, only because even though she was trying to manipulate him and basically use reverse psychology on him to fall into, okay, I'm going to fall into this, there would have been a cool scene to make her actually eat a piece of raw meat. Like, that would have added to the levity of the movie, that you're doing fresh. So fresh would actually essentially, and not for nothing, because we knew what he just did to her best friend. So for her to eat a piece of raw meat that he just basically chopped off would have been a ew moment, but at the same time added to it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I felt like once he took the girls, I want to see Hostel. I want to see that scene where the guy's literally just cutting them, because you want that extreme to it, because you're shocked enough that he's basically taking these women, cutting body parts, selling the meat, but you want to see it. I mean, when he cut a piece of her butt and you just see the thing, I was like, okay, I thought it was funny in a way because he was singing the whole time. But yeah, that scene, I agree with Anne. I wanted more background on Anne, and there's one character that was only mentioned once. I forgot her name, but the girl who wrote on the magazine, "If you're reading this, he likes you."
Yeah, it was like Sammy something.
Yeah, I wanted to know about her, because that was interesting. Yeah. Like, what happened to her. And I mean, there was so many. I was going to nitpick. One thing I was curious about was in the beginning, was after the funny date scene, because that date scene was hysterical.
With Chad.
Yeah, with Chad.
Like, of course his name would be Chad.
It's so terrible. But when she's walking in the alley, and there's a guy in the alley in the darkness, and she's walking to her car, and the way she's acting is so much like she has PTSD of something that happened to her.
Something happened to her.
Yeah, and I think they left that too open. Like, what exactly happened to her for her to act this way? And secondly, why is a guy with a baby staying in the middle of the alley? I mean, that didn't make sense.
Well, he was walking. He was
he was against the wall first, and then he turned around.
And then he started walking. But I mean, but in the shadows, I mean, listen, we're from Bridgeport, Connecticut. So if you start walking down the street, especially one of those streets where buildings are run down, somebody can be laying against the wall. You're not going to see a baby. You're just going to see a person. And if they start moving, you're going to walk at a faster. I mean, I would. Yeah, no, I would. It was just
weird seeing the baby, though.
Yeah.
Like, what's he doing, baby?
Well, because it was trying to say, I think that seeing the baby was more of she was so freaked out, but she was so freaked out of nothing. It was a man with a baby. Like, seeing the baby was trying to basically show that she was so freaked out over nothing.
I was just going to comment on the part, I feel like it's a spoiler alert, but when she's like seducing him and then she starts like kissing down his chest, like, I don't know about you guys, but I was like, oh my God, she's totally going to Last House on the Left this guy. And then she did.
She did, yeah.
Like, oh my God, like that just happened.
Oh, so I totally, sorry.
No, that's okay. You go ahead.
I totally love you. I love The Last House on the Left. One of my favorite movies. I actually like both the original and the remake, but the fact that you just brought that up.
It brought me back. I was just like, she's totally going to do what the mom did in the original. I forget if they do it in the remake too, but
no, the original.
I thought that was neat. I was like, okay, so it's getting a little extreme, but I think even then you could still like push it a little bit more without getting like lewd or like crass or anything.
Yeah. One other scene I thought was funny too was when they're sitting there eating at her house, and he tells her, "Oh, I don't eat meat. Why don't you finish that plate?" And she's like finishing up that plate, and then fast forward to in the house, he's like eating the meat, and she's like refusing to eat the plate. I thought it was a good like counterpunch to that whole
But
scene.
that was an actual.
Oh, that was
If you look at it back, it was showing right at that point the kind of influence he was going to have on her.
Oh yeah,
It was basically him saying that and her just going ahead. Is he's like, okay, so I just told her to finish off that plate and she's going to do it. Let's see how far I can take her.
Good point.
Very good, yeah, very good point. All right, so let's go to our next part. Now, Sarah, we have you here. It was a joy to have you here. And what do you have? What do you have projects coming up? And two is what got you into horror?
Well, in terms of projects, I have The Callback on my plate, which is a short horror film that I wrote, I directed along with my partner, Nathaniel Lee. He also helped produce it. So we are in post-production and we're so freaking close to being done. Like, it's really cool. And thank you, Jose, for your contribution when we were crowdfunding the film. So that's what's on the plate. We're hoping to have it ready for summertime. So we're just waiting on like the final 3 departments: color, score, and sound design. So it's almost ready. And that's pretty much my project for now. It's like my little horror baby, and I just want to raise it and premiere it, and then it'll be like leave my nest. So that's it in terms of projects. And then your second question was what got me into horror?
Yes.
Gosh, I don't know. I feel like for as long as I can remember, like as a kid, I've always loved like weird, spooky, and creepy shit. Like I loved Tim Burton and Beetlejuice and like all that stuff, Goosebumps. So I've always had an affinity for it. And then the movie that got me into the genre was actually Halloween H2O, because that came out at the time. I think I was like in the 6th grade, and I was
feel
ready
like
to
a
watch.
baby.
I know.
I mean,
like,
not even baby. I feel old.
I feel old sometimes. I'm like, oh my God. But that had come out that year, and I remember Blockbuster was still a thing. And so on Halloween, my mom took me to Blockbuster and we rented that. And then I was like, oh my God, that movie was awesome. So then I went back and watched like all the Halloween movies, all the Nightmare movies, Texas Chainsaw. And then that was like the beginning of the end for me.
All right. So one question is, I don't know if you can tell people, but what's the background for The Callback?
So the background for The Callback, so the story also like metaphorically parallels the real life horror of sex trafficking and exploitation. And that is a subject that I'm super passionate about, because I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. And before I started acting, I worked at a group home with 13 to 16-year-old girls, and one of which in the home was a victim of sex trafficking. And she was only like 14. And the stories I heard her tell me, like, I remember one day I cried in front of her and I felt so unprofessional because I'm just like, oh my God, I shouldn't be like losing my shit. But it's just
not professional. It's actually, it shows your heart, which is exactly why people, when we get into what we're doing, most people stray away from listening to us because they don't think we get us. And then when they see that you get it, that's where you get somebody listening to you. So her seeing you cry is exactly what she needed.
Yeah. And she was my favorite kid. And it just like, it broke my heart to hear stories like this. And it's something that happens all the time, every day, all across the world. Like, it's not even a problem in just the US, but it's like internationally an issue. And it just really gets to me that people would exploit somebody for money. Like just the nasty things people do for money. It like really gets under my skin. And so I decided to take that idea and merge it with the world of acting, which I know very well. And for me, sometimes like when I would go on auditions, usually for like independent stuff, like sometimes auditions are in really weird places and it seems really sketchy. And thankfully, I haven't run into any really bad situations, but it's like, what if this went wrong? Like, what if the people hosting this audition are fucked and then I'm fucked? So then it was just like taking that idea with the sex trafficking element and like putting them together into the Callback.
That's pretty good.
Are you going to be good with us reviewing your movie? Because I would love to
hell
review.
yeah.
It sounds like it's a very intriguing. It is different as to what goes on, and it actually would add to the actual horrors of sex trafficking, but probably taking it to more of an nth degree. So yeah, that would be awesome to check out. But
yeah.
What?
Oh
no. I want her. Yeah.
I was gonna say, with the trafficking element, it's not gonna be like in your face, like it's explicitly about trafficking, but it's kind of just like a subtle undertone that I want people to feel. It's not gonna be like hammering it over people's heads necessarily. It's gonna be super subtle.
So here's the thing I was gonna ask you. So I heard you commented on our Saint Maud. I'm the one that introduced them to, well, even though Rick's not here. I'm saying them two and they're not here. I'm the one that pushed both Junior and Rick to check out Saint Maud. So what was it about Saint Maud that you enjoyed?
First, I love A24. I have yet to watch one of their movies that I don't like. And to me, there's always something about religion and horror that just like really freaks me out. And I think it is very effective. And I grew up in a religious home, so that probably has to do with it. But
Same as us.
yeah. So it's just like it's a whole nother ball game when you watch a movie that deals with religious elements and like creepy shit. And I just thought it was so well done. Like the acting, the ending. I like couldn't stop thinking about the last shot for like weeks. I was just like, oh my God, like what?
So was this religious and supernatural for you, or was it psychological?
That's hard because I feel like I don't know. It obviously can definitely seem psychological because she had a traumatic experience from her previous job like that. I think the opening shot was her like with someone's blood on her hands because I think as the movie goes on, you find out that she was doing CPR or something and and
it went wrong.
Right. So it's like she has the trauma that can definitely trigger like an episode of psychosis or something like that. So it's like maybe she did have mental issues, but then again, maybe it was like the forces of like religion at work, or maybe it was both.
You just solidified what I went through watching it. Honestly, because you gave the same answer I did, because for watching that movie, that was my whole thing though, because it was that whole, was it all in her head or did it really happen? And I am, I believe I follow psychology. There is a lot involving the mind, but I also believe in religion, and you never understand what religion can do. This movie was one of those movies that it just kind of, you didn't know which way to go. I still kind of towards the end, which is the same way that I sit on The Exorcist, where it was a little bit on the supernatural side, because you still can't explain the floating in the air. So
right.
You can explain everything else, but she floated in the air. So
bitch, how are you floating? Like,
thank you.
Definitely
so
not
no,
psychology.
that's why no, it was great to talk to you about that part, because like this was in our conversation, the way I was looking at it, and you see it the same way as I do. So it's pretty much, that's what makes Saint Maud an awesome fucking movie.
Love it. And it was so like unexpected too. I was just like, oh, I've been hearing things about this movie. Let me put it on. And then I was just like, oh shit. I was like blown away afterwards.
And I think it was also an A24, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, A24. In the past episodes, I have raved about A24. They do great. There's going to be some shows coming up on our channel where I'm going to discuss psychology, but I'm not a big fan of abusing psychology as a reason to make it horror. But there are some times where the psychology part is the actual horror. But yeah, Saint Maud is the epitome right now for me, involving both where you can't figure it out, but you stand like I do. You have your
Mhm.
degree, so we look at both sides, and it's still. I mean, to now, a hard one to go. Which way do you want to pick?
Yeah. Which I think just means it's a really well done movie, because I feel like it might be kind of boring if it's like, oh yeah, it was definitely supernatural. It's like, yeah, okay, like I've seen that. But like when you make the audience think, it's like, I love it better.
If you solved it, you did not accomplish it.
Yeah.
If you're still questioning it, then you created enough in the writing and the way it went that it carries on.
Yeah, I agree with you guys on Saint Maud. Saint Maud, when you have a director and a writer who actually make a movie that leaves the audience still guessing at the end, I mean, that's what a perfect movie should always be like. But going into the perfect movies now, Sarah, as our guest, as we've done in the past with our last two guests, we want to know, what is your top 10 horror list according to you?
Oh, perfect movies. That's a loaded statement. I'd like to think these are perfect, but should I start from 10 down to 1? Or
yes,
10 down.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So number 10 is The Lost Boys. That's one of my all-time favorites. I ruined the VHS tape I had as a kid because I watched it so much. So that's my number 10. My number 9 is Saw, the first one. I think that was really well done. And it's like, I just feel like it's burnt into the culture now. Like everyone knows the twist, and it just like sparked its own subgenre of like the torture porn stuff or whatever. And I just love it. Number 8 is The Evil Dead, the original. I love that one. Number 7 is Jaws. Classic. There's not much else you can say about it. So that was 7. Number 6 is The Shining. I feel like that's another one that doesn't really need any explanation. And then number 5 is Suspiria, the original movie.
Wow.
I absolutely like, that's one of my favorites. I just love the music, the colors, everything. Number 4 is an A24 movie, The Witch. It's newer. I just love everything about it. I know some people hate it, but I find no faults with it. And then number 3 is Scream, the original. Number 2 is The Exorcist. And number 1 is the original Halloween.
Yes.
I love Halloween. That's the series that got me into horror in the first place with, like I mentioned earlier, Halloween H2O. So I owe Michael Myers a favor, I guess.
I found my new girlfriend. I find like literally your list is fucking awesome.
Oh,
like as you were saying, as you were saying your list, I'm like, oh my god. I knocked off stuff on my list that you said, but at the same time as you were saying, I'm like, oh my god, this is like the perfect. This is the perfect horror movie girlfriend that you want to have.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
you are like, oh my god. And as a gay guy, I'm telling you, the perfect horror movie girlfriend.
Yes,
that was the
queen.
best list
Thank
ever.
You. Thank you. I'd love to hear your guys' list too. I don't know if we have time for it on the show, but just like, I'd love to see your guys' top 10.
So here's mine. So number 10, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9, The Strangers. Have you seen The Strangers?
Oh, yes. That one's one that I don't watch often because it genuinely freaks me out. But it's a good one.
I literally, when I watched that one for the first time, my partner, got it to me for Christmas, and I put the DVD in. And then when she said, because you're home, I paused it, and I made sure all my doors, everything was locked. I was so freaked out because, and I think Rick's not here, but I told both of them in horror movies, there's a lot of lines that kind of sit with you because you were home. Sits on the top of my list as the most scariest thing you can hear. Just because you were home. I mean, that's the only reason that you're getting killed. You were home. So
I'm home right now. What do you mean?
I know. Well,
I'm home a lot.
Well, Adam's first, so at least if anything happens to Adam, I'm good. Then I got Donnie Darko.
That's a good one.
I am a very old school person, so whatever happened to Baby Jane.
I haven't seen that, but it's on my list of things that I must watch at some point.
Because of the actresses involved in that movie, which involved some of the Oscar-winning actresses, it was toward the end. So back in the day, when the big actresses, their light was shining, they did horror movies. So Joan Crawford and Betty Davis both signed on for that movie. And just the thought of the whole reason for that movie is the fact that your sister did something to enter her career and you're the one that got paid for it. And you didn't know that. It's a great psychological fuck up movie. Then I have Scream. Scream is on the top of my list. I mean, it's like, and the new one, I love the spin on the new one. It spun what the original one did. So then you have The Omen. I am a big Damien person. Then you have Jaws, Alien, because Ripley, Halloween, and my number one is The Exorcist.
Very good list.
I found my list. So my list, number 10, I have the Fog, the original. Number 9, I have The Thing, the original. Number 8, I have Grave Encounters.
Oh my God, I love that movie. That's a good one.
Number 7, I have Train to Busan. Number 6, I have the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Number 5, I have Incident in the Ghostland. Highly recommend that movie. That movie is just awesome. If you want to see a movie with a tremendous twist to it, that movie is just awesome as a horror fan.
A fucked up twist.
It's a messed up twist.
It is a fucked up twist.
Yeah, it's gonna leave you shaking after you're done watching it.
Yeah.
Number 4, I have Aliens, the sequel. Number 3, I have Jaws. Number 2, I have I Saw the Devil, which is another.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen that one
great,
either.
Great movie.
And number 1, the original Halloween.
Yay!
Michael Myers is the man.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too big on the newer ones, Halloween Kills, but because I don't like the fact that they wiped everything out. Because I'm a big fan of oh my God, Jamie's character.
I know, and she's gonna. I do think the actress is gonna be brought back. I think they're gonna bring her back in some type of way. I think that they realize they're gonna have to let the fans feel everything. They've done everything so far, but I think that Jamie is going. I think they're just keeping their mouth shut. I hope and feel.
Yeah,
Jamie. If she doesn't, when we review it, we're going to critique that she wasn't out there. But no, I do think that in some way or another, she's going to be in there. And there's some stuff that I've read online that make me believe that she's going to pop up.
She better.
That would be cool.
All right, so here comes the big thing. Now, we all talked about Fresh. We all gave our pros and cons. So now it's time to give it a rating from 1 through 5. Sarah, what do you rate Fresh 2022?
I don't want to give it too high or too low. So I would give Fresh, and this is super specific, but 3 3/4 stars. That's my rating.
Pretty good. Joe?
Well, as for me as a whole, I really enjoyed this movie. It was a different take on cannibalism. Like when he took the leg out and he slid off that little piece of meat, that goes prosciutto.
Gross.
Like that. Yeah, I know. There was a lot of things in this movie that it just kind of the things you normally would do make you feel like, ooh. But it was a great spin on cannibalism. I love Sebastian Stan. Daisy Edgar Jones did an amazing job. I mean, playing the doe-eyed, like, ingenue, like just in those moments, she did an amazing job. Actually, I am going to give this a 4.5. It got close enough to a 5. And you know why? Because it was fucking fresh.
Nice.
That's why I got a 4.5. Because it was fresh.
Well,
Nice.
for myself, I mean, I do like the creative. I mean, yes, it's been done before, but I think they did it in such a creative way. The big thing I like the most is Joe mentioned it before, the fact that 33 minutes into the movie, we finally got the name of the title of the film, which let us know now is when the movie actually begins. Daisy Edgar Jones, I'll tell you, if it wasn't that I'm such a huge fan of Anna Joy Taylor, who I think is the next Scream Queen, I would love to see Daisy Jones in more and more horror movies because I think she has a niche for this now.
She won't be Anya, but
She never Anya right now.
Anya is the new Scream Queen. And it's not even Scream. It's not even Scream. Anya's just the horror queen.
She can do anything from The Witch to her character in Split. I haven't seen Soho yet. Not in Soho.
Oh my God. I just read something else that made me want to watch the movie even more.
Yes, for me, Anna Joy Taylor, she's number one. Daisy, I hope she keeps getting more roles because I think she has a future in definitely horror. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Three Corners of Horror. On behalf of myself and Rick, who's not here, I'm sure Joe will say, Sarah, it was a pleasure having you here.
Likewise, it was a lot of fun talking horror with you guys and reviewing the movie. Thank you very much for having me.
And fans, horror fiends, we will have Sarah back as often as she would like because she's another member of the Three Corners of Horror. Thank you once again. It was awesome to have you. Well, that's it. Don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and continue to feast on horror. On behalf of JR, Joe, Sarah, Rick, get well. This is us, Three Corners of Horror. Love. Peace.
I asked you for help. Bitches like you are the fucking problem.